We're going through a series called Holy Habits, and we've looked at different things different practices that we can be part of, that we can involve in our lives, that we can do that help us to spend time with Jesus, help us to become like Jesus, and help us to do what Jesus did. Quite a few years ago, I was traveling with some friends up in North Queensland, and I went to a place called Lucinda. Has anyone been to Lucinda? Caldwell? You're all Victorians. Man, head north. And in this place, it's where you jump off the mainland and you head over to an island called Hinchinbrook Islands. And Michael, these seem to be in a different order. Can you pull up the slide of the island and the water? So to get to it, you have to catch a boat, which is probably pretty obvious for an island. But we were in this little tinny, and it had this little five horsepower motor on the back. And we are traveling across, and it's nice and calm. And we get there, and we have a great day on the islands. And then we start heading back. And as we're heading back, the weather changes a little bit. And we were in a little, estuary. As we made our way out of the estuary, we reached kind of the open water of the channel. And at this point, what was smooth became slightly less smooth. And there was a storm that was coming in, and the wind picked up, the rain started coming down, and it went from this to this. And then as we got a little bit further out, it was choppy. Now it felt like that. It was realistically probably more like that. But when you're in a small boat with a small engine that's not going very fast, it felt like we were going nowhere. And the rain was coming down, and the engine was revved to its max, and this boat was just going boom, boom, boom. And it was hitting every little swell as it came up. And for the first 5-10 minutes, yeah, this is really fun, exciting. For the next hour and a half, it got way less exciting. It was not fun at all. And it just kind of, you're in this tiny boat, the rain is coming down, the wind is hitting you, every 3 seconds you've got this out of rhythm jarring that happens when the boat hits the next swell, and the engine's running, and it's just going on and on and on. And I remember halfway, I'm like, I just want to jump overboard. I think it'd be better swimming than having to deal with this boom, boom, boom going on over and over again. And I just wanted it to stop. And this December, as Hannah said, you might be feeling, man, it just feels like stuff is all happening. It's hitting you from every side. It's busy. It's all hectic. And there's this constant kind of bombardment that's happening in your life. Maybe your week, your day, maybe your month, maybe your year has kind of felt the same way. We've been going through this series on holy habits, and we've looked at silence and solitude. We've looked at fasting. We've looked at witness. We've looked at community. And today we're looking at Sabbath. We've been trying to discover what it is that Jesus did and how can we do the same thing. And so as we explore this, when you look at what Jesus did on the Sabbath and you read through the Gospels, he was spending time with people. He was in synagogues. He was teaching. He was hanging out with people on Sabbath. He was sharing meals. He seemed to really value Sabbath. And so how do we make this habit that Jesus had something that we also have, and how do we embrace it? Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and suggest that if you're either watching this or sitting here, that you already have a pretty good understanding of Sabbath and you have an appreciation for it. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. But what I want to look at today is a little bit of the background to it, but then what does it look like for us to have this as a habit? Not just a habit of attending somewhere on a certain time, on a certain day, but a habit that is holistic, that actually impacts the rest of your life. So, if you have a Bible, I want to invite you to open up to Genesis chapter 1. If you've got one of these Bibles, it's page 1. Genesis chapter 1. And it's probably familiar. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the... Nice. The earth was formless and empty. Some versions say void. And darkness covered the deep waters. Now, those words for formless and empty, I want to share with you what those are, because if you look at the Hebrew, it gives us a bit of understanding of what this is actually all about. So the two words there, you'll be able to remember this because it's really easy. Tohu wabohu. It sounds like tofu, or it sounds like you can't speak properly. Tohu wabohu. And basically what it means is, it was meaningless, it was formless, there's emptiness. It's used in terms of there's just kind of this waste, this carnage, this nothingness. There's no order to what's going on at the beginning. And so it begins at this place of chaos. There's chaos, and into that, God starts speaking. And as you go through the story, you probably know it. Day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6. God creates these, on this side, he creates these kind of spaces. On this side, he fills those spaces. And over the course of 6 days, the world goes from chaotic, nothing, emptiness, to this beautiful, ordered fullness. Ordered, there we go. And this is what God does. He takes things that look chaotic, that are empty, that are void, and through the process of him speaking into it, we get this place of order. And so creation is that way. But if you think about your life and what you experience and what you've gone through, my guess is that you've understood that things don't naturally move from chaos to order, do they? And I've mentioned this concept before, but this idea of entropy is that any organization or system that is not maintained will naturally move from order to chaos. And if you need to question or experience that, have a look at your Tupperware cupboard, have a look at your garage or your sheds, have a look at your garden, have a look at your toy room. But it's not just these things that we experience this. It's also community. If a community or a society doesn't have order, it naturally moves towards chaos. You don't need to encourage people to do that. You don't need to give them directions on how to do that. We go there automatically because we just are built that way. And order makes us feel good. It brings, spring cleaning may not be a fun experience, but when it's done, does it feel good? To have the shed's all nice and tidy, everything's where it's supposed to be. It fills you with good feelings when your desk is tidy, your room, your house, the car is neat. It makes you feel good. But that chaos and the result of entropy is stuff that gives us a sense of awkwardness and makes us feel unsettled and disrupted and uncomfortable. So this is what we live with. But what I find fascinating is that before this was a problem, God had a plan in place. And if you turn to Genesis chapter 2, we read and we discover what it was that God put in place before we knew that we even needed it. So at the end of the Genesis account in chapter 1, God saw everything that he had made, and it was very good. That's where it is. And then in chapter 2, verse 1, we're told that heavens and the earth were completed in all their array. And then we have this interesting, seemingly repetitive passage going on. It says, on the seventh day, God ended his work which he had made, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made. Okay, sounds like we just read that. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because on it he rested from all his work which God had created and made. It sounds really repetitive, doesn't it? And like it's repeating the same thing over and over again, just maybe slightly differently. But this is because we've translated this from the original Hebrew into English. If you look at how this is structured in the original Hebrew, which I have cool software that does that for me because I'm not really great at Hebrew, this is what it looks like. It's different, isn't it? It makes something stand out. God finished by the seventh day his work. He rested on the seventh day from all his work. God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because on it he rested from all the work which God had created. It gives us a focus on what is actually at the center of the end of this creation narrative. And it talks about how God took Sabidi, the word for seventh is very similar to the word for Sabbath. He took this seventh day and he made it holy. He set it apart. He did something different with it. And when you look at creation, God made these spaces, then he filled them. On the seventh day, God creates a space of time for us to be with him. And what does he fill it with? Well, Jesus talks about this. He says, hey, Sabbath was made for you guys. I didn't make man to fill a day. I made the Sabbath, and then I made it so that in that space of time, we could do something. Karl Barth, the theologian, makes this interesting quote. He talks about what happened on the seventh day, and his quote is this. That's Luke, that's Mark, that's not Karl Barth. So this is what he says. I don't have it here. It's on there somewhere. Not sure what's happened there. But he said basically the reason God rested on the seventh day was because he had found the object with which he wanted to spend time with. So if you think about the order of creation, last thing God makes is people. And then he creates a whole day where he says, hey, I want to spend that day with you. You are the one who I want to be with. And so the Sabbath is this day where God spends the day. He wants this time because he's found the object of his love. And he doesn't need to create anything else. He's made you. He's created you. And now the Sabbath is this opportunity for him and us to be together and spend time together. So that's how it began. But then sin entered, entropy arrived, and as a result of that, it's kind of like we lost this original idea of Sabbath. And when you go through the impact of that, it's pretty fascinating because God made Sabbath. They said, this is for you. I want to spend this time with you. This is good. This is something for us together. And then things started to shift. We started to have to work really hard at life. We experienced slavery, both physical and emotional, spiritual. We have all these distractions that came in. We had this busyness that came around, and then just our own desire to do things pulled us away from what God originally intended for this Sabbath to be. And we lost the picture of Sabbath. Even if you just go through a brief overview of what's happening in the early parts of the Bible, God gives us the Sabbath, and then we discover that, hey, next chapter, next book, everyone's in slavery. What's going on? And they're forced to work. They're forced to be busy. They don't get to stop. They don't get to rest. And so God releases them from slavery, and he says, hey, I've given you this command. I want you to rest. Remember Sabbath day, keep it holy. 6 days you can work. The seventh day, this is one where I want you to stop and be with me. Because I was your creator, and I want you to experience that creation and the relationship I created for us to have. And then Moses comes down, and the people are worshiping golden calf, and he breaks all the 10 commandments at once. And then God gives them another set in Deuteronomy. And this one, God says, hey, I want you to remember Sabbath day because you used to be slaves, but now you're not. You used to be in bondage, but now you're free. And then the rest of the Bible is basically a whole story of how we got distracted by so many different things. And then Jesus turns up. And when Jesus turns up, he once again brings Sabbath back to what it's supposed to be about. He reveals to us what the Sabbath is. If you look at what Jesus does, he spends Sabbath relating. He spends Sabbath with people. He gives his time. He gives of himself so that other people can experience that. He spends Sabbath restoring people and healing. He spends Sabbath reminding people of who God is, teaching, sharing. And it's this really awesome picture that, hey, this is actually what was lost. Jesus has come and he's shown us this is what it can look like. And so as followers of Jesus, what does that mean for us? How do we do Sabbath in a way which is not just about ticking a box, but actually about experiencing all the fullness that God intended for it to be? I want to share with you three things to make Sabbath a holy habit. And the first one is this: take it seriously. It can be really easy to get complacent with Sabbath. It can be really easy to just kind of go, yeah, look, I'll rock up to Burwood, I'll attend the gathering, I'll sing, I'll talk with other people, I'll join a discussion group, take my kids to Sabbath school. It's going to be really good. Go home, have some lunch, have a nap, close Sabbath, and then move on with your Sunday. Or perhaps we've made Sabbath something a little bit different. Anyone played Settlers of Catton? Yeah, it's a great board game. If you haven't played it and you hate board games, I probably won't convince you, but it's good fun. Imagine that is what Sabbath is designed to be. It's this beautiful experience where we get to hang out together, where we get to worship God, where we get to connect with him, have an impact on those around us. I think sometimes what we've done is we've created a Christianized day off. On the left is a board game called Settlers of Canaan. And if you want to know what it's like, it's pretty much exactly the same as Settlers of Catton, but they've changed the names. So instead of buying resources, you're getting offerings for the tabernacle. And I think sometimes we can do this with Sabbath. We take it as God designed it to be something beautiful and awesome and something that impacts our whole life. But we take it and go, oh, let's treat it like it's like a Christian day off. We can secularize Sabbath to be just something that's good for me. I get to kind of rest, get to stop, don't have to work. It's kind of good. And we throw in a bit of other stuff to make it Christianized. Maybe that sits comfortably with you, maybe it doesn't. But to take Sabbath seriously, here are a few ideas. And to make it a holy habit, prepare for it. Look forward to it. Anticipate it. Get ready. If you feel like Sabbath is busy, then perhaps you're adding things into it rather than subtracting things from it. Subtraction is the best way to, I think, become like Jesus, because he never seems hurried. He never seems stressed. He never seems anxious. He never seems bothered when someone interrupts him. He's got all these people who are coming to him, and you don't get the sense that he's like, sorry guys, I've got some stuff I need to do and I need to get to. Another thing you can try is, dare I say it, turn off your devices. Go analog for a day. Remove those distractions. Keep it simple. Resist consuming. Resist consuming things online, resist consuming things offline, resist becoming part of the society that we live in, which is all about what you can get, what you can accumulate, what you can experience. And instead of that, embrace generosity. Generosity with who you spend time with, generosity with how you spend your day, generosity with maybe even what you do with your money. Focus on not what you can't do, but Sabbath is a delight. And in our discussion groups, we're going to dig into this a bit more. One of the passages in Isaiah says, hey, Sabbath is supposed to be a delight for us. It's a joy. It's not supposed to be a burdensome thing. It's not supposed to be, it's Sabbath, I better go and get some stuff ready. It's actually supposed to be something that we enjoy, that brings life, that brings healing, that brings wholeness, that brings goodness to our lives. And open, close, and eat well on Sabbath. We talked about fasting a few weeks. Sabbath is not for fasting. Hooray! Sabbath is for enjoying what God's made, for enjoying it with other people, for giving Him thanks for what we have. So to take Sabbath seriously, can I suggest open it well? I don't always do that well. Close it well, so you can bookend it and make it special. And eat well on Sabbath. Enjoy the goodness that we have. So take it seriously, but also consider that perhaps Sabbath is bigger than just one day. Perhaps Sabbath is actually something we can embrace as a lifestyle, as a way of doing life together. So how do you do that? How could Sabbath impact the other 6 days of your week? There's a quote by Walter Brueggemann. He says, people who keep Sabbath live all 7 days differently. Why is that? Is that true? Do you experience that? Are the people who keep Sabbath the ones who get to experience life differently the other 6 days of the week? Marva Dawn has this interesting quote. She says, by keeping Sabbath, we cultivate the habits that equip us to resist the idols of the other 6 days. Is that the impact that the Sabbath has on the rest of our week? Is it something that gives us the reminder, gives us the strength, gives us a community to actually be able to say, hey, to all those other things, all those other distractions, all that busyness, all that idolatry, all those other things which can take the joy out of my life, Sabbath is a reminder that I can actually say no to that. It's okay. Sabbath is the way we learn to live in God's time so that the rest of our week is ordered by grace, not hurry. If you think about creation, at the very beginning, when God created everything, we don't have this recorded, but I wonder if Adam went up and said, oh, hey, God, everything looks pretty good. Do you want me to test the soil, make sure it's okay? God's like, no, it's okay. It's perfect. He's like, oh, okay, well, what if I go check on those flowers over there because they seem to be struggling a bit? God's like, no, it's okay. Okay, well, can I just go and do you want me to move some of those plants around? Because no, it's okay. Do I need to water anything? No, Adam. Everything's perfect. Everything's how it is. There's nothing you can do to make what I've made better. There's nothing you can do to improve on it. And Eugene Peterson says that on Sabbath and in Sabbath, we get this first picture that we are saved by grace alone, through faith. There's nothing we can add to creation, nothing Adam could have added to creation that would have made it better, because God provided everything. And I think that's what James Bryan Smith is getting at. When we realize the beauty of Sabbath and that it's this perpetual reminder that we can't add anything to what God's made, we can't add anything to what God's provided, we can't add anything to what God is doing, we get this experience of we can just be because we live in that grace. And that then drives us through the rest of the week. A third suggestion is to follow Jesus' example. What do I mean by that? Well, Jesus focused on relationships. He focused on restoring people. He focused on reminding and sharing the good news of who God is. In Luke chapter 4, when Jesus kind of kicks off his ministry, he's in a synagogue, and it's a Sabbath. And it says, Luke chapter 4, verse 16, page 883, if you're in a blue Bible, says, he went to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, and on the Sabbath day he went into the synagogue, as was his custom, something he did. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was handed to him. Unrolling it, he found the place where it is written, "The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners and recovery of sight for the blind, to set the oppressed free, and to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And that's how he lived out his ministry, his life. He went restoring people, he went reminding people, and he went connecting with people in a way that made them know that they were seen, they were loved, they had an interaction with God. And so we can follow Jesus' example by doing that as well. I often think, how does Sabbath impact the rest of my week? How does Sabbath impact those around me? And I often come back to this idea that in the Ten Commandments, it talked about, hey, it's not just for you. The Sabbath is for everyone who's within your circle of influence. What does that look like for you? How do you extend Sabbath to the people who are in your circle of influence? One of the questions we often get when you're doing Bible studies with people who are discovering more about Jesus is, so how do I keep the Sabbath? I'm not sure you keep the Sabbath. I think you practice Sabbath as a habit, and the Sabbath keeps you. But when they ask, oh, so am I allowed to shop and stuff on Sabbath? My response is always, when you walk into a place where someone's working, are you extending Sabbath to them? Or are you encouraging their work? And that's just my way of looking at it. You might have a whole different way of looking at it. But I think the reality is we have this opportunity. God's given us this day where we can spend with him, where we can cease. Sabbath means to stop. We can stop, and we can actually extend that to the people around us and give them a taste of what it is to experience the goodness of God in their life. So how can you make Sabbath a holy habit? That's just a few ideas. But in a world that often feels like it's incessantly beating us, and there's pressures, and there's deadlines, and there's needs, and there's requirements, and there's all these things falling on us, it can feel like you're in that tinny, and it's just bang, bang, bang. Things are coming every direction. Sabbath is a way of reminding us that in all that chaos, God can restore order. That in all that chaos, there is this space, this time, this moment where we can be with him and we can live differently. When we finally got to the end of that boat journey and we hit the cove on the mainland, we came around the corner, and just like that, it just stopped. Oh, sweet relief. The boat was just going smoothly. The wind wasn't there. The rain had died down by that point. And instead of all the noise and the banging and the jarring, it was just calm, it was peaceful, and it was so good. And I think that's this really cool picture of what Sabbath can be if we choose to make it a habit. Not just a habit of attendance, but a habit of living it, of embracing it, of experiencing it, and of sharing it with people around us. I want to invite the team up as we're going to close off with our final song. But as they're coming up, we're told in Scripture that Sabbath is not just a thing on earth. Sabbath is something we're going to get to experience for eternity. And so this day, this time, this moment, this experience of Sabbath is something that we get to have forever. And so the privilege we have now is actually building that habit and growing it and experiencing it. Because the good news, I think, is God gave this to us before we even knew that we needed it. And so now it's up to us to actually choose, how do we accept that? How do we live that? How do we share it with people around us as well?